Hungry for spicy food and even hotter conversations? Craving community and authentic storytelling? Then join the table. This is Minor Legends, a new comedy fiction podcast supported by Potluck. Pull up every week with me, Angela Wong-Carbone, and follow the stories of me and my friends as we serve up tasty tales of what it means to be Asian American at our weekly dinner hang. If you enjoy deep dishing on absurd stereotypes like tiger moms who tutor your dating game rather than grades, the insanity of your parents' immigration story, to the legend of that one good Asian cousin you can never live up to, then pull up a seat and grab a plate. Featuring dinner guests like Ronnie Chang, Brian Park, Usama Siddiqui, Celia Au, Harry Young, Supriya Ganesh, and more. It's a tasty rotation that'll leave you belly laughing and steeped in relatable and spicy conversations. Can you take the heat? Listen now for free wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Whoa! Potluck.
And hey, welcome to Books and Boba, a book club and podcast featuring books by Asian and Asian American authors. My name is Marvin Yue.
And I'm Rira Yu.
And welcome to our discussion episode for our October 2025 book club pick, Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. This is our Halloween episode, although you're probably listening to this a few days after Halloween. But we are recording this the day before Halloween. So, Rira, happy Halloween. I know this is your favorite holiday.
Yeah, Halloween Eve. Woo! a lot of places did trick-or-treating last Saturday as opposed to tomorrow, Friday evening.
They did, and I am pretty annoyed because I did not know that was the what was going to happen. Because this is my first Halloween with my kids, and I feel like I missed a lot of the community events, and so right now we're just scrambling to figure out what to do tomorrow night. Because you would think Halloween landing on Friday night is like the perfect situation, but apparently, no one wanted to do it on Friday.
It depends on your city, because obviously, like, some places in like the Midwest, they do it like the weekend before, like Saturday before, because it takes a long time to drive to places. Whereas like in more concentrated areas, like I don't see why you would trick or treat the weekend before when Friday is a weekend. But my town is having like their Halloween bash. I know Pasadena, my old town, also does Halloween bashes, and it's happening this weekend. So I would check your town, check your like community newsletter, or check like social media, like follow your local, follow your town's like cities social media, because they always like post events. They want you to come.
Well, it is my first Halloween as a dad, and your first Halloween as a new member of your neighborhood. So hopefully we all had a great Halloween. We'll let you know on our next Boba chat. But speaking of Boba chats, Books and Boba is supported in part by our listeners. So if you've been enjoying our podcast and want to become a bigger part of our book club, head on over to patreon.com/booksandboba, where as an official member, you gain access to our members-only Discord server, where you can chat with us and fellow book club members in real time about all sorts of topics, including our monthly book club picks. And if you join us at the Honey Boba level, you also gain access to our monthly bonus podcast Boba Chats, as well as the opportunity to help us pick a quarterly book club pick, which this month's Spooky Read was a part of that. And based on the schedule, our next patron's choice will be our January book club pick. But yeah, thank you to all of our listeners who chimed in and chose this book for us, because it was definitely an experience reading it.
Yeah, I think it's very fitting for Halloween, for October.
Yeah. So before we get to our discussion of Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng, wanted to give a quick standard spoiler warning. In our book club discussions, we do discuss our book in its entirety, and this book is primarily a mystery. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the third act reveals, this is your chance to hit pause on this podcast, finish the book, and then come back and listen to our discussion. But with that, let's just get right into it. Rira, can you start us off, as always, with the book jacket description?
Cora Zeng is a crime scene cleaner washing away the remains of brutal murders and suicides in Chinatown. The bloody messes don't bother her, not when she's already witnessed the most horrific thing possible, her sister being pushed in front of a train. Before fleeing the scene, the murderer whispered 2 words: Bat Eater. Months pass, the killer is never caught, and Cora can barely keep herself together. She pushes away all her feelings, disregards the bite marks that appear on her coffee table, and won't take her aunt's advice to prepare for the Hungry Ghost Festival when the gates of hell open. Cora tries to ignore the rising dread in her stomach, even when she and her weird coworkers begin finding bat carcasses at their crime scene cleanups. But Cora can't ignore the fact that all their recent cleanups have been the bodies of East Asian women.
Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about in this book, but I do feel like it was so, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like it was really, really well paced as a supernatural mystery. I primarily listen to this book on audiobook because that's just how I read these days with my twins running around. And, you know, I think when you listen to an audiobook, at least for me, it's more easy for me to kind of project that into my brain as like a movie. And I definitely, like, this book, I feel like the story was kind of paced like a horror movie.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being adapted into like a Get Out level of production horror movie. And like, I did listen to part of this book on audiobook, but there were times where I was just like, I can't listen to the visceral, like, body parts that are being listed. So I'm just going to shut this off, and my eyes are just going to skim through it and then jump to the next part.
You know what I found is the descriptions of like violence and like body horror didn't bother me as much as the descriptions of like the audio cues, like wet crunching. That was what really like gave me goosebumps.
Because it gets you into like the atmosphere of it. But like I'm very squeamish. I can't even watch like surgery scenes in Grey's Anatomy. Like, I get freaked out by even like the fakest gore that you see in like B-rated horror movies, like slashers. So I'm just like, I can't do it. So there were a lot of times when I was reading this book and I was like, nope. I either like put the book down and just like walked away for a moment, or just turned off the audiobook, and I was like, we're just gonna skip a paragraph maybe.
Yeah.
Because I am a coward.
I mean, part of the horror movie feel was the author Kylie Lee Baker. It seems like she took a special glee in over describing the scenes of violence in the same way that a horror director will like linger on like depictions of people dying in horror movies. And
I feel like it wasn't gratuitous, but like it was enough. It was just amount of just like, why are we lingering on this shot? Okay, we can move on now.
And I feel like we should probably start with that first scene, which like there's a lot of tense scenes in this book. But that first scene, the subway station, was, I feel like, the most tense. And if you read the author's note at the end, Kylie does say that she feels like that first scene was like the most horrific because it's like these characters don't know what's coming, right? The rest of the book, they're being either chased by monsters or, you know, like a serial killer, right? But in that first scene, the readers, because we read the description, we know what's coming, but the characters don't. And I think especially as like Asian American readers, understanding like the time period they're during, because this book is set during the early days of lockdown New York City.
It's
right?
literally like a month after lockdown had begun in New York City.
Yeah, and the fact that like we know like these attacks did like I don't know if anyone actually got pushed into the subway.
Oh no, they did. They did.
Wow.
There was a series. It was a huge problem. I don't know if it happened like before the pandemic, but it definitely escalated during like the lockdown. And it got to a point where people don't stand by the tracks anymore. They stand against the wall when they're waiting for the train. And that's really terrifying because, you know, like there's just like we live with constant fear as women. So like just adding that on top of it, being like, oh, by the way, like there are some crazy people out there who will just push you in front of a train, in front of like in public,
and feel justified about it. I think that's like, that's the main horror. And we can get back to this, like who the real monster is in this story, because it's not really the ghosts. The ghosts like are horrific, but they're not the monsters. So this first chapter is when we're first introduced to Cora, our main character, as well as Delilah, her older half sister. And I guess, what did you think about like this first chapter and kind of reading about their relationship with each other?
I didn't really think about the relationship they had with each other in like the first chapter. I think I was just so entranced by just like the impending dread of, oh my gosh, she's going to be like, Delilah is going to be pushed off the train and we know it's a hate crime, but no one is going to catch this motherfucker because like, when do people actually care when a person of color gets murdered? Like, attention is never really, like, the press is never on the case and it's always deprioritized. So I was like, already, like, you already have that horror in mind. So it was just like, okay, yeah, this is a very depressing and tense and scary start.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was thinking about like the fact that like their last moments together is an argument, right? They're not on good terms, right? Because Delilah is kind of her sister's caretaker, right? Her sister, the main character, Cora Zeng, she is, she's characterized as someone who has, would you say severe OCD or?
She has OCD. Yeah. She has OCD, the kind where, you like they feel like they have to be clean all the time and have to like sanitize things. And I'm not saying that that is like all OCDs, but that is a very specific subset of OCD. And it does sound like she, I don't know if it's like depression, but she was involuntarily institutionalized to an asylum. And we don't really get the details of like why that happened, but I'm guessing that there was a like attempt at suicide or people mistook her OCD tendencies or maybe it was like stress. Like we don't know, but we do know that she has like a mental illness and she has OCD and it does not help her in terms of socializing in the world, which is true for many people who have mental health conditions.
Yeah, and she doesn't necessarily have the best support system, right? Like all of her relatives, like, her sister does her best to like, it seems like she did her best to take care of her, give her like as much of a normalcy as possible, even though it did strain the relationship. Her aunt, her Chinese aunt, Auntie Zhang, who I love as a character, but also is like, she's of like the Chinese aunt variety of like, you just need to toughen up, like just do what I say. And her other aunt, her white aunts, are like, you just got to pray it away. Like, why are you making such a big deal about it? And so like all that is exasperated by the pandemic, which like is basically the worst type of like crisis for someone like Cora Zhang, right?
I actually don't know because obviously lockdown was a terrible time overall globally, but for someone like Cora who has OCD, who always felt like she was an outsider and her quirks, quote unquote, were considered like uncomfortable to like normal society's standards. It's like, okay, now we're in this timeline where people do have to wear masks. They do have to wear gloves, depending on their occupation. They do have to wash their hands more. And if she washes her hands like twice instead of once, like no one's going to bat an eye. They're going to be like, okay, like they're just being extra careful. It's not like, why are you such a weirdo? Like, and the same thing with like air purifiers too, like people have those now. I have like 3 of them in my house. It's considered normal now. And I don't know, like it kind of, I know it was a hard time. Lockdown was a hard time for a lot of people, but for me, as like an introvert and as also someone who, deals with like severe depression, like it was like a safe time in a weird way. It was like peaceful because no one is constantly coming into your space and being like, you need to conform to all of society's standards. Like, why are you being too quiet? Why are you not doing this? Blah, 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 blah. So with Cora, I feel like there was a sense of like normalcy that was provided by the lockdown, which is very interesting.
There's a key difference, though, I feel like, because you and I have the privilege of living in the suburbs, right, where we're not in close proximity to a lot of people all the time. Cora lives in like Manhattan.
Oh, yeah, it was a terrible time in Manhattan. I mean, like, I don't, some people have just like forgotten how bad the pandemic was in the early days, but the book describes it. Like, there were bodies out on the street because there, like, the morgue didn't have enough room. Like, there was just no place to store that many dead bodies. And I'm like, that is horrific. People live through that.
Yeah, and New York is such a dense city. Like, you're in constant proximity to a ton of people, even under lockdown conditions, right? So I feel like that also adds to the stress that Cora goes through, because she does have to be out and about. Like, even to go get groceries, you have to go out into the streets, right?
Yeah, and it's just like you're walking past so many people. And also, like, I think Kylie did a really good job, like, painting the picture of, like, anxiety that a lot of Asian Americans, especially Asian American women, had during this time, because it's like we were seeing like a rise in hate crimes, and the main targets for Asian American targeted hate crimes were the elderly, the disabled, and women. And it's like, okay, we're already like scared of being assaulted and raped just as regular everyday women. So add this extra layer of dread, and you have OCD, and you have like, you know, you just have like generalized anxiety disorder in a way. It's like, okay, yeah, that's just, it's not a great time. And I really empathized with Cora on this.
Yeah, and I guess that goes into something that a thought that kept occurring as I was reading is like the role of like neurodivergence, especially in horror, right? A lot of times, horror is about the rational coming up against the supernatural, right? And I think of movies and TV shows where like neurodivergence is either used as like a plot device, like this is the reason why these hallucinations are happening, or these are the reasons why these are being interpreted, or as like a solution to like the problem, right? And towards like, as I read through the book, those thoughts kind of faded because you get really invested into Cora's own like kind of, this book is also her coming of age journey of like becoming more confident in herself and what she wants. But like something that we talked a little bit about on the Discord channel, and we didn't really come up with a solution. So curious to get your thoughts about it, was like, would this book have worked if she wasn't neurodivergent, right? Or did it need her like that layer? Because as you mentioned, that sense of anxiety is already so present during that time, especially as an Asian American woman. And I've read somewhere saying that like a horror movie, a horror story is probably the closest a neurotypical person can get to like understanding what being neurodivergent feels like. And the part of it is you don't know if what Cora is experiencing is real or not. And the fact that she is like overthinking, the fact that she does have that anxiety, is that a crutch, or is that like just add to the flavor, right?
I think it definitely just adds to it, Like, I think it's really scary as someone with, like, I feel like women in general, like, we're always like second guessing ourselves because, people gaslight us all the time. And, if you have like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, like, there's an extra layer of like doubt against you. It's just like, oh, are you sure? Like, you're feeling okay? Did you take your meds? Well, like, it's like you didn't see that. That's something that your anxiety like made up. And honestly, like, it really adds to like the character and like the horror. I don't see it as a crutch, because I feel like it would have still worked if Cora was someone without like a mental health condition. And I don't think, like, I feel like it could just be like, oh, okay, you saw your sister, get pushed in front of a train. That is a really traumatic event. So even without like mental disorders, it's like, okay, like, are you sure are you sure like you're not just overreacting because like you're stressed?
Yeah. I feel like that makes sense. She would have been gaslit either way by like society.
Yeah, either
right?
way. Yeah, you will always be gaslit as a woman. And it's just like, also like I think it's really interesting how Cora has pattern recognition. She's just like, all these, like, we've been scraping up dead Asian women for like this, like the fifth one this week. Something is happening. And we also see bats. Like, that's not a coincidence.
It is funny
And
that like she vocalizes it while the other two, while Harvey and Yifei, her coworkers, are like, "Don't talk about it.
don't talk about it.
Don't vocalize that. Don't put that in the world." Wait.
Yeah, but it's very like familiar as like I'm sure like people with autism who have like very high pattern recognition, like this is kind of like how they feel when other people are just like, no, you're just overreacting, like, you know, it's not that bad. And it's like, no, I like
Yeah. So, after Delilah's very gruesome death, we jump forward, I think a few months, right? We jump forward to April, which is Ghost Month in Chinese culture. And Cora has taken a job as a crime scene cleaner and is sent to clean up a series of murder scenes of like East Asian women. And in the process also begins being haunted by what she thinks is her sister's hungry ghost, because she, in her, like, I don't know if it's denial or just like kind of putting it off, she never did the rituals to help comfort and satiate her sister's ghost. And so she thinks because of that, her sister has become a hungry ghost. And this segment I thought was really interesting because like we see her kind of go through the motions and kind of undergo the cultural rituals of both sides of her, her heritage, let's say, the Chinese side and the Christian side, not really believing in any of it, but kind of just going through like doing what her family wants her to do. And it really reminded me of how like I approach my, like, at least my cultural customs. It's like, I have no idea why we're doing these things. My parents told me we need to do it, so that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I'm sure like also Cora is biracial. Like she's half white, half Chinese. So there's even, and also like her father abandoned her and like moved back to China to like marry for like the third time, and he has like Chinese sons now. So he's just like, fuck off, daughters. Like so like she really didn't have anyone to like teach her all these customs. Like there's Auntie Zeng, but I feel like she's not someone who teaches you the customs. She just does it herself, and then she's like, okay, just like do what I'm doing
Auntie
without
Zeng,
explanation.
Yeah, Auntie Zeng is like a lot of my relatives. It's like, it'll take too long to teach you why we're doing these things. You just got to do these things to do it. Okay, so like even now, like a few weeks ago for Mid-Autumn Festival, I prayed to the moon goddess because that's just what I do at Mid-Autumn Festival, and it's just like if I did, like I literally like woke up in the middle of the night, said I didn't pray to the moon goddess, and you go outside and like bow 3 times.
Yeah, and so like she has that distance from that additional distance from her, Chinese heritage, and it is kind of like really sad because Delilah, her half sister, like her mom raised her in like Chinese culture. Like she is fluent in Mandarin, and Cora like barely speaks Mandarin, barely understands it. So it is kind of sad that like Delilah, her half sister, didn't really help bridge that gap in a way. And like after Delilah passed away, like that connection is gone. So it's like even more distance. So like I thought that was like pretty sad. But it is like a very familiar feeling when you are a part of the Asian American diaspora. It's like, oh, like my link to my culture is so weak already, and I'm just doing the thing, I'm just going through the motions. So obviously it's like very familiar. And I think as someone who grew up in church as well, like it is very similar because like your parents, like if your parents are evangelical, it's just like you're kind of just like thrown into it, and you're just like, I don't know why I'm like doing mass. I don't know why I have to like confess my sins. It sounds like her aunt is actually Catholic because we don't do confessions.
Yeah.
But
but it was just such a stark difference in the way that like her aunts treat her, right? Like I feel like Auntie Zhang she's just afraid that you're going to be like, she doesn't want you to be haunted. Whereas like Auntie, what was her other aunt's name?
Lois.
Auntie Lois like kind of just sees her as like her burden that her sister has left her with.
Yeah. And like that two-facedness of like, oh, God welcomes everyone. This church welcomes everyone. But all of the church members have been gossiping and complaining to the father, saying like, we don't want this like China virus person here. And it's like, oh, okay, what
Yeah.
happened to love thy neighbor? Like, this is
Yeah.
very hypocritical.
And this was the scene where she gets spit on, right? By like a jogger, like a random passerby, and like the churches didn't do anything. They were just watching, like, oh, she must have done something to deserve it.
Well, I don't think I don't think it's like, oh, she did something to deserve it. It's just, you know, they're like, oh wow, like that sucks. Okay, we're gonna move on because it's uncomfortable to, you know, like they call it the bystander effect, right? It's like you think that someone else will jump in and protect someone, but it's, you know, it's never the case because everybody is too scared or everyone is like too, you know, reluctant to interfere in someone's life.
Yeah.
But that is like a genuine thing that happened throughout the lockdown because there were people who were getting spat on, there were people whose masks were being torn off, and it was really, I think it was a really eye-opening time for a lot of Asian Americans because for so long there's this complacency of like, we're model minorities as long as we follow the rules of white supremacy, we'll be safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they will always see you as a foreigner, even if you were born here, raised here. They conflate Asia with Asian Americana. Like
Yeah, like how easy it was for an entire, like, not even ethnicity, but entire, like, racial group to be villainized, like, literally overnight.
Yeah, I remember, like, I was looking through, like, my Instagram earlier, and I had posted, like, within, like, the first week of lockdown, like, a selfie of me with my mask on, and the caption was, like, I hope no one fucking yells at me for wearing a mask and for being Asian, because the fear was real, you guys, and that was, like, that's in Southern California. That's in LA County where there are so many Asians. So I can only imagine how much worse it was.
Yeah.
In more concentrated parts. Like San Francisco, for example, there were so many hate crimes to a point where like they had to create like a community like watch squad because it was just so horrific. And I think a lot of people just forgot about it.
Yeah. Like it was like old ladies were being harassed and attacked, and it was like I still remember those pictures from those time. And I think that's what makes this setting work so well in like a horror context. It's like, sure, there are ghosts, but the real monsters in this book aren't the ghosts. Like the ghosts are like, they're unsettling, they're horrific, but like for the most part, like they didn't actually like hurt anyone. Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
They did hurt some people, but
I mean, there's a quote in the book that I highlighted, and it was, Cora thinks about a time before the pandemic when she truly thought the worst monsters were the ones inside her own head, when she thought people were mostly good, that they would save each other. And I think the really shitty thing about the pandemic, like in the beginning, I feel like there was sort of this optimism, you know, it's like, okay, like we're going to help out our neighbors. We're going to pass out masks. We're going to, you know, thank our essential workers. But then as the pandemic stretched on, capitalism won, individualism became even more like, more of a thing. And it was just like, oh no, like we had a chance to be good. We had a chance to save our environment. We had a chance to be better neighbors, better humans, to build like better community outreach. And we still chose greed in the end.
yeah, we chose selfishness. We chose tribalism. We chose to push our problems or project our problems onto the marginalized people. Right?
Yeah. And it was just like, oh yeah, like disabled people, they were able to, you know, work remotely for the first time without being like targeted because everyone was working remote at that time. And now like all of those rights are being taken away. And it's like, wow, okay, like that is something the pandemic has stolen from us. And Kylie, like her dedication is to everyone we lost in the pandemic, but I think a more accurate way to write that dedication would have been to everything we have lost in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just human lives. It was it was a lot. It was compassion. It was
A
hope,
faith in humanity.
faith in humanity. Really, like a lot of that got lost within the second year. And like reading this book, obviously, like a lot of the real life hate crimes that happened, it was like flashing through my mind. A particular one was the murder of Christina Yuna Lee. I think her murder happened in 2021. It was like a man had stalked her into her apartment and stabbed her multiple times. And her death was literally just like a blip in New York news cycle. Like I felt like no one actually cared all that much about justice except for the Asian American community.
Yeah.
Specifically like New York City Asian Americans. It was just like the police was not doing anything. It was just like, it's like, oh, this isn't a hate crime. It's just like a crazy person who decided to stalk an Asian woman home. And I'm like, okay, but we can't ignore the fact that there are layers to this. Like,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel like that sense of justice comes back around later. And we can talk about whether or not this book achieves justice. That was a hotly debated topic in the Discord as well. But I guess, do you want to touch on the ghosts? Like the
the ghosts were so scary. Oh my god! Like, what in the Slender Man? Like, it was so scary. There were times where
Kylie does a good job
like
describing just like
the
how
description of the
unsettling these
ghosts were so scary. I don't know if you've seen the movie It Follows, but it gave me that anxiety of like always like looking around and being like,
Yeah,
is this
right?
thing
Because
following
like
me?
the mechanics that Kylie sets up is like, yeah, the ghosts will appear when there's no light, and they will appear wherever there are shadows. Is like very unsettling. The fact that like they're described as like kind of slender, like long fingers, a lot of
Like their
tapping.
neck is just like needle thin, but they're able to eat people, and it's kind of like No Face from the movie like Spirited Away, where they just like fucking swallow everyone. It's horrifying.
I mean, Asian ghosts are just like unsettling.
Asian ghosts are so
right?
scary. Yeah. I mean, that's not the only ghost that is described in this novel, because Harvey, like the coworker of like the Ghostbusters crime cleaning squad that Cora is a part of.
Yeah,
He talks about like how he saw a ghost when he was a kid, when he was like being
right. The
raised
woman in the basement, right?
Yeah, he was like, he's like, I would be in the basement playing games all day because, you know, my dad would just like lock me down there, and the games were a way to escape from the real life ghost that was hiding underneath the stairs. It was a woman with a sunken head, as if it was a broken milk carton, and I'm like, ugh, I do not want to hear that. Like, that is so scary, unsettling.
And even Yifei had her ghost sister, who like I assume was drowned but didn't die all the way, right? I
will say the Yifei's sister ghost was the most terrifying one for me, because just at the end she was like, I just ran away. I don't know if like my sister like died inside that cabinet, or like inside that room, and I'm like, that's scary. Just
it's the next homeowner's problem. They've inherited a closet ghost.
I mean, it's also horrifying that her parents, you know, they pretty much killed her sister because she wasn't a boy.
They didn't want to pay the fine. It's not worth paying a fine.
Yeah, they didn't
for a
want
girl,
to pay the
right?
fine.
Yeah.
Again, horrors of mankind, you know, like, but I was just like, like a pale, because they locked her sister in a room. She never saw sunlight, and I was like, oh my god, it's It's like the girl from The Ring. It's so scary.
Yeah, but that was after they tried to drown her and she didn't die, right? Like the guy was like, it didn't work. Yeah, just horrors in general. Right. So Cora is haunted by a hungry ghost that she assumes is her sister Delilah because she did not burn Joss paper to give the offerings. She did not leave out food. And she's been noticing that food in her apartment has been going missing. And she can only assume that Delilah is sticking around to haunt her because the ghost that keeps following her has like the jade bangle that she also has, right? And so she enlists the help of her coworkers, Harvey and Yifei, who like they all work for Harvey's uncle as crime scene cleaners. And they don't really go into world building, but like the fact that like this Chinatown dry cleaning business also has a crime cleaning like sub business, I just thought like they obviously take business from the underworld, right? Like that's
yeah 100%. It is like super sketch, and I'm like, oh, it's like the world of John Wick. You know, they have people who are hired to do cleanups, and they just don't question it.
But yeah, so they eventually she confides in them that she has this hungry ghost problem, and so I guess they try to figure out how to, you know, like this is the part of like a lot of ghost stories. How do we exorcise this ghost? How do we like make it go away? And at first they think, oh, we need to bury her corpse, right? Because Delilah's head was crushed by the subway train, and they think, oh, because she wasn't whole, like that's why she's still haunting you. And then so that's when they go in the subway and they all get,
which was terrifying, by the way. It's like one of the most like adrenaline rushing dreadful chapters I have read in this book.
Yeah. And it's just a series of just like questionable decision making, like when you're dealing with a ghost to go into, it's like going to the lion's den, right? Like why would you go to the most haunted place you can imagine to like try to solve your problem?
Also just minusing the fact that it is, you know, you're going into the lair of a ghost. You're going into a subway like tracks, and it's so gross. It's so scary. Do you know how many rats I've seen in broad daylight walking along? Like,
I mean, we're not talking about like, you know, we're not talking about like a Japanese or Taiwanese subway station. Like we're talking about New York City, like the grungiest subway station
like,
you'll ever see.
If you see a corpse, then it's like, yeah, it's kind of expected, but like, like I would not be surprised. But it's so gross, and Harvey does like gripe about it, being like, oh, there's like used condoms here, and like, it's like, yeah, I would be more horrified by that than seeing a ghost because I'm like stepping in it, and it's just gross. But
then this was the first scene where we see ghosts interact with other people too, right? Like Harvey and Yifei also sense the ghost, and that's when you start to like kind of, it's when the book starts turning like maybe this isn't all in Cora's head. Like there's actually something like fishy going on. There's something supernatural going on, right?
Yeah. It's like, oh, the ghost isn't just haunting you. Like the ghost exists, and it can be seen by other people.
Yeah. So, you know, their next solution, Yifei suggests, we cook a feast for your sister. That way she's satiated and she can move on to the afterlife. And Harvey says, that's going to take too long. I have a better idea because I watch movies. What did you think of Harvey's just really bad idea? Like, let's invite the ghost over.
I don't understand, because it's like, we're talking about the Hungry Ghost Festival, and Harvey and Cora are both quote unquote ABCs, American born Chinese, right?
Yeah.
And Yifei, like, she's actually from China. So it's like, okay, like, listen to the person who grew up there and knows the Hungry Ghost Festival customs, as opposed to whatever kung fu movie you watched and hope for the best. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Even
I, as someone who has watched those movies, right? You're conflating your ghosts here. Jiangshi are not the same as hungry ghosts. I don't think the same solution works. It's like you don't kill a vampire with a silver bullet. Those are werewolves, right? Like there's different solutions for different ghosts. And even sometimes it doesn't even work.
Yeah. I do find it very funny, though, that Yifei had turned off her phone. Like she has firm like work-life balance. And she's like, I do not pick up my phone before 8 a.m. and I shut off my phone after 10 p.m. So if you're gonna try and reach me, like it, like she's like, I'm not gonna pick up.
I respect that. You know, like these are her work friends. These are not her friends, even though they are friends. Like
I do
boundaries
find
are
it
important.
really, really funny that like, you know, like in your do not disturb mode, if you get the same call like twice in a row, it does break through the do not disturb because your phone thinks that it's an emergency. And she could have called back because she was awake after it after the third phone call, but she just was like, no, it's not worth it.
That was a terrifying scene because like they attract a ton of ghosts, right?
Like all the ghosts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They threw a bunch of like rice and coins and are like, hey, ghosts, come feast. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that's just, you know, that's like, you know, vampires exist and you say like, come on in, vampires, and they all come. It's like that scene in Sinners.
Yeah.
Where they're surrounded by vampires and then
Yeah.
and then one of them is like, come on in, motherfuckers, and it's like all of them descend upon the humans. I'm like, this is a bad idea. No self-preservation, these two.
No. But also like kind of, you know, some of these scenes were like, it was scary, but also a little funny, right? It's kind of funny to watch like Harvey come to realize like maybe this was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Another scene that I kind of found a little funny was when the ghost ate Yifei's roommates.
Oh yeah, that was like my favorite part. Because like what happens is they're doing like the feast offering for Delilah, and Yifei's white roommates come in and they're like, oh sweet, you have food, we're gonna eat some, not knowing that, you know,
You don't eat.
It's for
it's for the ghost.
It's for ghosts.
What did you think
you know,
about?
I always wondered about that. I was like, oh, like what do you do when after serving the food on the altar? Like,
It depends.
Do you eat it?
It depends. It depends on the culture or like kind of your own family's rituals. Some people eat it. Some people just leave it. Some people take a bite before setting it out on the altar as a way to offer. So it really depends. But in general, you don't touch it until after the ritual's over.
Yeah, you don't touch it until after the ghosts have quote unquote eaten. So
Yeah.
like when these white people picked up the dumplings, I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen?
I was
this
so
can't be good.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that like they actually got like killed by the ghost, right? Because it's like, oh, like this is the first time the ghost has interacted with a non-Chinese person, and it was so I say funny because like Yifei's roommates were kind of very shitty. Granted,
They're
like
racist.
yeah, they were racist. They kind of assumed like because Yifei pretended she couldn't speak English, they like kind of just assumed that like
I mean, Yifei didn't correct them. Like, she could have corrected them. Be like, actually, I do speak English.
Yeah.
But she just didn't want to interact with them. And I'm like, fair, queen. Like, she's the best. She has boundaries, and she doesn't want to interact with people, so she just lets them believe what they want.
And I feel like even if they had known that she speaks English, if she had told them, don't eat this food, is for the ghost, they wouldn't have listened, right?
They would have eaten it, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like, look at all this food. And I'm just like, I mean, even in Western culture, you don't eat the food of the dead, okay?
Yeah. And like, if this was a movie, I think I would have clapped at this scene. This
Oh,
would
yeah,
have been
100%.
an applause moment for the crowd.
But like when Delilah eats the roomies, I was like, holy shit, like they're gonna be accused of murder. Like, what are they gonna do? There's a
solution, but the book has a solution for that because all three are crime scene cleaners. So problem solved.
yeah. So, I mean, like in my head though, I'm just like, well, there are gonna be people looking for them, and like, what do you do in this case? They're gonna hunt down like Yifei because she's like their roommate, and how are they going? Yeah, but Yifei dies later, so I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like the case has been closed. All the links to the murder of these two white people has been closed. So,
I mean, there's no
That solves
body
it.
either, right? Because it's in the ghost at this point. So I don't know. I mean, the cops probably would have taken this case more seriously than the serial killings of Asian women, but I guess, you know, like you said, the loop is closed. But I guess this is a good time to bring up so while Cora is trying to exorcise her sister's hungry ghost, she's also investigating, and the hungry ghost is kind of directing her to the clues, right? Like she goes to the police department. She finds a USB stick underneath. I think it gets kicked off by one of the crime scenes they clean up is the Chinese detective who was investigating the serial killing.
Officer Wang. Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up getting to the crime scene before even like the crime scene photographer comes. And she finds the ghost directs her to find a USB key underneath the detective's bed. And this leads her down kind of a series of like investigative adventures, eventually acquiring like a series of shredded documents from Detective Wang's desk. And one would assume that investigation is what leads to the deaths of both Harvey and Yifei, right?
Yeah. We never really find out what Harvey found out before he got killed.
Yeah.
But he like his last words to Cora was like, I think I know who the serial killer is.
Yeah. And I mean, we never solve it. Like we find out who the killers are, like killers with an S, but we don't find out who killed Harvey. But I think it was the crime scene photographer, right?
Oh yeah. I think so too. Yeah.
Because he was definitely a Nazi.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to like go into the spoilers of so like Cora like opens up the USB and there's all like these thumbnails of pictures of the victims. And
Well, she opens it up because like it's protected by a password and she doesn't know what the password is, and she is given the clue by the ghost who's following her. And this is after she finds out that the ghost is not actually her sister.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that was funny too. Like her Auntie Zeng was just like, I knew you weren't going to burn Joss paper, so I burned it for you. Like, there's no way your sister was going to like haunt you, so that's not your sister.
Which is a very like I very believable. Like it would be something that she would do, right? She would assume that Cora would be too wrapped up in her head to do the ritual, so she did it because Delilah was also Auntie Zeng's family as well. So it's, also up to her to do it. Like it's not all on Cora, but in Cora's head, it's like, it's all my fault. She has like, it's, and, she finds out at the top, like there's I love that the scene where she finds out is at a Taco Bell. It's like, it's just a very
that's
specific.
My favorite scene. It was so funny. Like after Yifei dies and Cora like hoofs it to a Taco Bell, and then like she calls her auntie and she's like, Auntie, I have no idea what to do. Like my coworker friends are dead. There's this ghost that's haunting me. There's this serial killer. And her auntie's just like, I got you. Like, Where are you? Why are you so far away? Never mind. Stay where you are.
But then she also
shows up. She shows up with like her car in like full high beams. She has like a lantern, like a construction hat with like the lantern on top. Like she's just like and she's wearing a Christmas light up sweater, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I would love to see this whole scene, like I want to see this whole book made into a movie, because like there's just so many like great scenes like that, and especially the scene where they find out that the ghost is not actually Delilah, right? Because on these things, like, why would you be haunted by Delilah's ghost? And then she was like, oh, because her bangle has the word hope on it.
And Auntie Zeng's just like, your Chinese is so bad.
She's like, you need to run right now. And this is like the scene where like kind of like the revelations, like the flashbacks, it's like, oh no, I was wrong the entire time. Twist. I really like that. Speaking of Yifei's death though, so some of our members on Discord were a little like, they felt like Yifei's whole like backstory and death came out of nowhere, or it was kind of like happened really fast. What are your thoughts about that? Because I kind of felt like it was Yifei and Harvey were both giving doomed energy this entire book. Like at some point, I thought maybe Harvey would survive, but Yifei, like she was giving doomed like from the beginning. Like they are not the type of characters who survive a ghost horror movie.
I don't know. I thought Yifei would survive simply because like she knew all of the customs of like hungry ghosts. I thought she was going to be like the younger version of Auntie Zeng, Like, just be like, don't fuck with me. I know what I'm doing. Like,
But I feel like that's kind of like those are the types of characters like just so confident that they know what they're doing that they end up like
that's
getting
true.
got.
That's true.
But unfortunately, they weren't characters in just a ghost story. They were also characters in a serial killer story.
Yeah,
And
like Cora got final girled, and it's like, yeah.
And I kind of feel like so that whole scene, starting with finding Harvey in the laundry machine, getting freaked out and like driving, and like the whole sequence is just so chaotic that the only for me, like as someone who has inadvertently watched a lot of horror and thrillers, like the only way the scene could have found release was through like someone's death, right? Like a car crash.
Yeah.
Right? Like the car crash. Yeah.
I mean, I knew that she was gonna be in a. I didn't know if Ife was gonna die from the car crash, but I knew that the car crash was gonna happen because they're like, okay, we're gonna drive all the way to Staten Island, and they had that whole debacle with like the key in Yifei's apartment because they're just like, holy shit, I think the killer is in your closet right now, and the key to the car is in the closet. So what are we gonna fucking do? And I thought that was like. I thought that was like a really cool tension that Kylie brought up because I was like, you think that the killer is in the closet, but it turns out to be a bat, and it's like, oh no, the killer was here, but they're not here anymore. So let's grab the key and fucking run.
Yeah.
But like after all that struggle of getting the car keys, I'm just like, yeah, there's no way. They're gonna crash the car in the middle of nowhere, and then the ghost is gonna follow them, and how are they gonna survive? And
yeah.
Then we get Taco
Bell. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get Taco Bell. But it was just like I didn't know that Yifei was gonna die, but I wasn't like surprised by it.
Yeah.
And also like, you know, her telling the story about her ghost sister, her drowned ghost sister. I was just like, oh no, you're running away from something, meaning that it's gonna catch up to you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know if the ghost was her sister. Like, because, like, at this point, I was just like, I don't think Delilah's the one who is haunting Cora, because when they were doing, like, the Hungry Ghost offering for Delilah, like, Cora was, like, saying, like, oh, yeah, like, Delilah, she was not a nice person. Like, she would love the fact that you guys are, like, seeing her in, like, her underwear. And I was just like, this sounds like someone who doesn't give a fuck. Like, I feel like she would not put the effort to haunt you. So
yeah.
So I kind of had an inkling that it wasn't Delilah, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's Yifei's sister, and then it turned out to be one of the victims of the serial killings, and I'm like, that makes more sense.
I feel like if Delilah was to haunt anyone, it would be their shitty dad or Auntie
shitty
Zeng,
dad, 100% for sure.
But yeah, so fast forward again to her unlocking the USB key and kind of reading through like all of Detective Wong's research. That's when she finds out that the killer is actually a group of killers, part of like it was a neo-Nazi group, right? Like a neo-Nazi forum on the dark web.
Yeah, pretty much. So we don't find out who the original killer is, but we know that there's a bunch of copycat killers, and they're sharing photos of crime scenes, and they're not from like police photos or like actual photos that were taken right after the murder was committed. So that's how she knows that like these are original photos and the killer has to be in the room.
And we also find out that the NYPD is trying to sweep everything under the rug, right? They don't want to investigate
because it's an election year, and I'm like, oh,
they're stonewalling Detective Wong, and that is picked up by the inside man at the NYPD saying, yeah, they're sweeping under the rug, and it ends with like open season, boys, which is like, I feel like that's one of the most horrifying lines in the book, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like real life horrifying.
Yeah. And like for people who might think like, oh, that's over the top. Like that's not something that would actually happen. I'm like, no, it has actually happened. It's happened in Korea, Japan, Germany. Like there are these groups that exist on Telegram and also the dark web where disgusting men share like blackmailed photos of women and also like children, and also swap like murder photos. Like this has been proven. So it's like, yeah, this again, the real horror is stuff that happens in real life and not these ghosts. It's terrifying. And also like it sucks that none of them are held accountable. Justice escapes once more.
So there's a really great scene here where Cora starts to piece together who this ghost might be, and she actually turns off the light to summon the ghost in to ask her, who are you? I thought that was a really, that was a really cool scene when like she suddenly finds out that the ghost, this is what the ghost wants her to find, and the ghost is probably one of the women that were killed.
Yeah, I like how the ghost like types out the name. Like it's like very, I don't know. I pictured like boomer energy with like the two pointer fingers and just like slowly typing on the keyboard.
I mean, in my mind theater, it was like those long, slender fingers, just like tat tat, right? It's very like it's very tactile and also very like, again, goosebumps, right? And then so speaking of justice, what do you think about the climax of the book, which is her deciding to turn the mayor's mansion into a giant sacrificial bonfire to burn joss paper for all the ghosts that are hungry? Because a lot of Discord members were kind of not underwhelmed, but didn't feel as satisfied with the ending from the book because, again, like you mentioned, the killers aren't brought to justice. But she does she goes and turns the mayor's mansion into a sacrificial bonfire for all the hungry ghosts by burning joss paper on them.
I was like, for me, it was like, good for her. Like, good for her energy. Like, I already knew that we weren't going to get justice. We knew that as readers because Delilah, like the real Delilah, didn't get justice for her murder. And then, like, when you find out that this neo-Nazi group has just been murdering a bunch of Asian women in New York just for the hell of it, it's just like, yeah, you can't arrest all of these guys. There's not enough like evidence and the police don't care. So go straight to the source, right? Go straight to the person who is in charge of law enforcement and like light it up. Okay, yeah, sure. It is like a form of catharsis, but at the same time, I can see why people are disappointed because it's like, it's just like, what did that do? And I'm like, well, it appeased the hungry ghosts, for a year.
Yeah.
I feel like it's good enough.
Yeah, I feel like if this was like a more Hollywood horror movie, we needed like one more epilogue because you know how like horror movies, the ghosts aren't always gone. They appear once again for like one final scare. And like I would have loved, this is how I would have ended it, which is like 1 year later, next April, all the neo-Nazis are gathered at a Taco Bell, kind of meeting RL for the first time post-pandemic, or I think towards the end of the pandemic. And then the lights go out, and then we hear a crunch.
Yeah, that would have been good, but I don't know. Just like Cora was such a passive character for most of the book, right? She has codependency issues because she's always relied on her sister to make decisions for her because that just relieves a lot of pressure from her. And, she had relied on her coworkers to come up with a game plan for getting rid of the hungry ghost that is haunting her. So her at the end being like, this is what I'm going to do. This is my decision, my action alone. It's like, okay, there is like a...
Yeah, this is my revenge for both you all, like all the women who died, and also for my sister because the cops didn't do shit to solve her murder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think we all need that in our lives, like it says something, it's a statement, it's a loud statement. So burning down the mayor's house and accidentally, I guess she didn't mean to murder him. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of like, if he dies, he dies. But like, I don't think it was like straight up.
Yeah, I felt nothing for that.
Attempt.
I was just like, oh, sure, shrug. Thematically, it works, right? Like, how do you get rid of hungry ghosts? You appease them. You give them offerings. You satiate their hunger. And what better way than with a giant bonfire?
Yeah, a giant bonfire of the person who was very involved in the cover-up of the murders. I feel like the ghosts of those women are somewhat appeased.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the book ends with, I think a year has passed. Let me see.
It's the following April. So
Yeah,
it was
April
right when the
2021.
vaccines were rolling out. Cora got her first prick. Remember back then we had was it 3 doses we needed, or 2
was
to 3,
2. It was
right?
2.
Yeah.
I do find it really funny that after the roommates got eaten, all 3, like Yifei, Harvey, and Cora, got COVID, and they blamed it on the white roommates. They're like, we got COVID because of them, okay? And I was like,
Most
fair.
likely because the 3 of them were always in PPE. So
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I think the book did a really good job of capturing that anxiety of like what happens when I get COVID? Like am I going to survive it? Because a lot of people didn't survive it, and this was before the vaccines were developed.
yeah, that time period was just so full of uncertainty, and double fold if you're Asian, triple fold if you're Asian and a woman, right? It's like you're not sure if you're going to be safe from a lot of things when you go out. And I think especially just taking place in New York, again, like we said, a place that's very dense, and you can't walk around without interacting with other people. It was just it's a really good kind of setting for this type of horror.
Yeah, and I know there have been other books that have come out that are set during the pandemic, or a year after the pandemic, and kind of explores that anxious time. But I feel like Kylie did something really original. I feel like it is a time capsule for Asian Americans and just a lot of the fear and anxieties that we had that was so hyper specific to us, but the general public kind of swept it under the rug because we are considered, adjacent to white power. And it's actually,
Yeah.
I know we don't have it as quote unquote bad as Black people in this country, but the racism that we face in the world, it's very specific, and it is very malicious in its own way.
And I feel like there's something poetic about the fact that in this book, the biggest danger is not the inexplicable Chinese ghosts, paranormal cultural stuff. It's good old fashioned white supremacy, racism, misogyny, the things that are really what's killing us in the real world.
Yeah. This made me so sad, and also I understand, but at the same time it made me sad. I was looking at reviews of this book, right? And it for the most part it got great reviews. And one of the reviews that I read, it was very it was a rave review, and they said, I actually didn't know that the whole bat eater thing was fake. They actually thought that Chinese people ate bats, and that was the reason why COVID spread. And they're like, oh, okay, well, it cleared up some misinformation. And I'm like, what do you mean? You freaking believe?
That is wild.
That is so wild to me. I thought everyone fucking knew that it was COVID came from obviously the source was a contaminated bat, but it was through the wet market, and it spread through that, and not people eating bats.
I
was like, that's crazy. People actually thought that this was a real thing. And yeah,
it is wild, but also not unbelievable, because let's face it, people the threshold to get someone to believe something that wild is not very high these days. It just takes a couple of influencers to parrot it.
Yeah, and it also says something about how white supremacists see Asian people. It didn't take that much to convince people that Chinese people eat bats, because in their minds it's just of course they eat bats. They're uncivilized, they're dirty. Of course a pandemic would start there. We grew up with the moniker dog eaters, right? That was the big thing when at least when I was growing up, was oh, Chinese people eat dogs, Korean people eat dogs, right? Yeah. I do remember growing up, someone people asking oh, is it true that Korean people eat dogs? And I'm like, not any of the Koreans that I know. I'm sure it must have been true at one point, but it's not it's not a thing. But yeah, that's why like the term like bat eater, it's not just like, oh yeah, you're the cause of COVID. There's a lot of context around it as well.
And so one of our Honey Bowl members, Kappa Jen, did mention that like, so she made a comment like, I've been shortening the title and referring to this book as the Bat Eater book, but I'm just now realizing maybe I should refer to it as the Cora Zeng book. Do you think the author thought about this when coming up with the title? Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I think it is like, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but like a good like litmus test or personality test. Like, do you refer to this book as Bat Eater or Cora Zeng, right? Because that's kind of what the book is also asking you to like consider.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed this book. I think it really worked as a horror book. Again, like I feel like I don't know which studio would have the courage to make this into a movie, but I would watch it. And I think a lot of that has to do with Kylie's writing is just very, very cinematic, right? It's like multiple times in the book, I can imagine the scenes in my head as if it was like a horror movie, and I think that's what made it really like not only effective but also like visceral, right? All the descriptions of the ghosts, all the descriptions of the gore, of the viscera, and all like the audible descriptions really just like. And maybe part of that is because I listened to the book on audiobook, but I definitely had to like pause during certain scenes because it got a little intense. I think the scene where the ghost ate the roommates, I was actually making lunch during that scene.
For me, like I'm someone who get jump scared at horror movie trailers. And even though I know it's going to happen, I still get scared. I still like jump in my seat. And I felt like that throughout this entire book where I'm like, I know that a ghost is going to be right around, like she's going to turn around and the ghost is going to be right in front of her face. Like I know that's going to happen and it does happen. And I still just kind of drop my book and go, nope. We are not. It's like, I do not want to picture this in my head right now in the middle of the night. Just no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
it is funny that like I get scared by like the supernatural stuff because I just don't like being in that position. Because I did live in a haunted house, and like the stories that Yifei and Harvey was telling Cora about like their ghost experiences. I'm like, yep. I've lived through that, and I don't want to go back to that dark place in my memory. So absolutely not. Those parts like physically affect me, but all the hate crimes and stuff, I'm just like, it's like it doesn't scare me because I already, like I feel like I've kind of become accustomed to it in real life. It's more like grief and like silent anger at all like the real life misogyny, microaggressions, and all the hate crime stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
but it's not like jump scaring me.
Like we said, we it's been a lot of disappointment in the world since 2020, and I guess that's where we are now. Yeah. And with that, that'll do it for our discussion of Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. If you have any thoughts on the book or our discussion of it, please feel free to let us know either on Discord or on our Goodreads forums. We always love to hear your feedback on our discussion episodes. All right, before we go, November is my pick for book club. So for the month of November 2025, we will be reading Taiwan Travelogue by Yang Xuangzi, translated by Lin King. It is a historical fiction novel that won the National Book Award for Translated Literature last year. It's been on my list for a while. And, it's been, speaking of the pandemic, it's been almost 6 years since the last time I visited Taiwan. I haven't been since the lockdown. So, I'm feeling a little, not necessarily homesick. Motherland sick? What's like the right term for missing a place that your family is from? But it is a bittersweet love story between two women nested in an artful exploration of language, history, and power. Taking place in 1938, it follows a young novelist from Japan who goes to Taiwan on the behest of the Japanese government, who at that point is ruling the island, and is taken around by her Taiwanese interpreter. It is a book that I've seen a lot of people rave about, and I think it's been picked up by a couple other book clubs that I follow as well. So I've been interested in checking it out. So yeah, as always, if you're a Patreon supporter of Books and Boba, I will be releasing our reading schedule on Discord and on Patreon within the week. And for those of you not on our Patreon, you can also share your thoughts about the book on our Goodreads forums as well. But with that, that'll do it for our discussion of our October 2025 book club pick. Mira, as always, it's been a pleasure talking books with you. And hopefully by now you've had a wonderful first Halloween in your new place.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Books and Boba. This podcast was hosted by Marvin Yue and Mira Yu and edited and produced by Marvin Yue. Follow the book club on Twitter and Instagram by going to @BooksandBoba and engage with us on Goodreads on our Goodreads group. You can also check out past episodes of the podcast by going to booksandboba.com and by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget, you can support Books and Boba and Asian American authors by purchasing books at our bookshop.org account. Check out the link in our show notes and also at booksandboba.com. Books and Boba is a proud member of the Potluck Podcast Collective, a collective of Asian American hosted podcasts featuring unique voices and stories from the Asian diaspora. Learn more about the collective and check out our fellow Potluck shows by visiting the website podcastpotluck.com. Thanks for listening.
Hungry for spicy food and even hotter conversations? Craving community and authentic storytelling? Then join the table. This is Minor Legends, a new comedy fiction podcast supported by Potluck. Pull up every week with me, Angela Wong Carbone, and follow the stories of me and my friends as we serve up tasty tales of what it means to be Asian American at our weekly dinner hang. If you enjoy deep dishing on absurd stereotypes like tiger moms who tutor your dating game rather than grades, the insanity of your parents' immigration story, to the legend of that one good Asian cousin you can never live up to, then pull up a seat and grab a plate. Featuring dinner guests like Ronnie Chang, Brian Park, Usama Siddiqui, Celia Au, Perry Young, Supriya Ganesh, and more. It's a tasty rotation that'll leave you belly laughing and steeped in relatable and spicy conversations. Can you take the heat? Listen now for free wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Kim Cooper, and I co-host the podcast Asians in Baseball alongside Naomi Ko and Scott Okamoto. Asians in Baseball is exactly what it sounds like, a podcast about the Asian and Asian Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Americans in Major League Baseball. Every week, we break down the highlights of what's going on with Asians in baseball and then take a deeper dive into the Asian and Asian Americans past and present who have shaped baseball as it is today. Whether you're Kim Eng's #1 fan or you've never even heard of Hideo Nomo, we've got something for everyone, especially for the Shohei Ohtani stans. Maybe too much for the Shohei Ohtani stans. Listen to Asians in Baseball wherever you get podcasts, part of the Potluck Podcast Collective.